Hey, Wire Monkeys, welcome to part 2 of Data Center Myths. My conversation with Ed and Henry continues.
Let's talk cabling. Yeah, let's talk cabling. Copper fiber structured right. Forcing data day and night. Get connected, stay connected, do it right.
One brief announcement, 2 things I want to make sure I say and get out here. Number 1, you probably noticed a disappearance of my profile on LinkedIn. I'm currently working through this issue with LinkedIn, trying to get it fixed, trying to get me back up running. But you can still watch me through YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and all those other feeds. Or go to the Let's Talk Cabling webpage. That does it as well, too. Also, Thanksgiving coming up here in a few months in Philadelphia. I did something that I always promote every year. This year I will be there. I will be there on that Saturday. So that information is in the description below. So be there Saturday, help support a good cause, and get to meet me. Now, let's get on with the show. This question is for you, Ed, because, we understand that it provides us benefits, and some of those, fears are I think, unfounded or overdriven. But if a developer says, hey, we're going to put a data center in your backyard, and it's going to bring job and innovation, what do you think the local residents are hearing?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
I know it is. That's why I asked you.
The residents are hearing that there's going to be major construction that they don't want. They instantly hear both sides of the data center debate, and I'm seeing this online like crazy. You have the anti-data center group, and I'm sorry to say it, and I'm sorry to bring the show there, but there is a whole anti-data center group out there that just bots comments like crazy, saying there's radiation, there's these things. So the local community is bombarded, not necessarily understanding the benefits and the issues. Is there true concern to have with a data center moving close? Sure. There's heat dissipation. That could impact the environment. Absolutely. Nobody's saying that this is a perfect technology. But there are legitimate concerns, like there would be with any building coming up or any other structure coming into your neighborhood. If you have a large mall coming, you understand that there's a large heat dissipation with the cooling that those malls provide for all of those stores. A large amount of electricity being drawn to keep all of those stores open. But people interact, feel, touch, smell everything in those malls. They don't with data centers. They interact with this device, and this device is the one that is touching with the data center, and they don't understand that connection. People instantly think about higher bills. That this is going to increase my electricity. It's going to hurt it. People start thinking about the noise. People start thinking about, the impact to the environment. But what they never really understand, especially as you go rural, like in the places that you're mentioning, is that those data centers being built in those areas begin to fund that fiber optic cabling that was promised in rural America now for about 4 or 5 presidencies. Mm-hmm. We are trying very hard in the technology community to light up rural America. And we keep getting stopgaps from one thing to another and another. And right now it's data centers. If I have a small AI data center that wants to build in rural America and they're willing to pay $25 million for that fiber backhaul back to the main feed, guess what? All the local towns that span that 30-mile or sometimes even 100-mile fiber span are going to benefit being able to connect, because I'm not going to pull 2 fibers or 4 fibers for a data center. I'm going to do a 400 plus count.
Yeah.
Why is that not being broadcast to the community? Instead, only the negatives. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's
no,
what's
you actually
been on
did. And you actually brought up a great point that I never really had thought about before. Is it's going to be bringing tech. It resonated with me because. This about me, Ed. I live in a little homestead and agricultural community in west central Florida, and I don't have fiber to the home. I've got Spectrum over coax, which is flaky at best. So because of that, I have to have a backup internet. So I've got Starlink and I got T-Mobile, And I would love if they brought fiber to our local, but you're right. They're not going to bring in, fiber from 100 miles away to service a community that's 32 people in it. Right. But if they're putting a data center nearby, that's a legitimate business cause right there. So Henry, what do you think is the most legitimate technical concerns that a community might have about data centers?
The term legitimate is very loaded, and I'm going to try and avoid that. So I would say that there are no legitimate concerns with a legitimate company. Anybody that's big enough to make an impact is going to be a legitimate company that, Ed and I both talked about it. You talked about it, eliminating waste, because that's just throwing money away. So I want to be careful. It's just like so there's real concerns that the community is going to have. They are not necessarily based on fact, but it's based on what they're hearing. So that's good enough for them to be concerned. If they're concerned about noise and water and pollution and traffic and construction, I think we have to be very careful as an industry to say, yeah, you know what? I think you're right to be concerned about that. And for any hyperscaler willing to listen, like you, I live in a village of 1,000 people. The mayor came to greet us when I moved in, and I said, I love this town. He goes, no, it's a village. Please remember, we're a village. We want to keep it that way. Now, if one of the giant hyperscalers wanted to build a data center in some land outside of town, which all of them are doing, they're not doing it near, like these big mega data centers, not in your backyard. They're 20 minutes outside of town. I'll be the advocate for my town, and I will help explain that. Ed brought it up, and he mentioned fiber, because they're going to bring fiber, and they're going, well, why would they help you? Well, remember, this is their core business, and they are spending not just billions, but tens of billions and hundreds of billions. It's the number one driver of the economy to give us what we want. We're demanding the data. Right, so that some of the Magnificent Seven are the people that we use every day for social media, for information, for web access. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because we want it. And if you need X amount of strands, they build for capacity, but they have to build over capacity. And if they need thousands of strands of fiber, they're going to add in extra thousands. And right. To Ed's point, that will support our network. But it's not just the network. It's the power. You hear about a gigawatt facility. Oh, my God, that would power 1 million homes. Yes, it would. Let's go and compare that to power for heavy industry, like a steel plant. That uses a lot of power, too. But we're not asking them to build their own power plants. Data centers are, because the grid can't build fast enough. And so they're building in power plants, but they are selling their overcapacity back to the grid. So they've made the business model to say, I'm going to put in my own natural gas plant. Like one of the facilities I'm working on has a combination of natural gas, wind, solar, and geothermal. And they're backfeeding the grid. And yes, so the grid's back paying for it. They're getting the local energy company to do it, but local energy company isn't paying for the plant. Hyperscaler is. So you're getting more power with less capital investment, which is driving down electricity costs. They're putting in a wastewater facility and doing that. And they're not putting these mega data centers in prime residential land or prime farmland or in pristine environments that we all want to go and vacation, and it's in the leftover land that no one wants. Again, they don't like waste. It's the land that no one wants. It's scraggly, it's ugly. You're not going to put a plant in there, but they're willing to do it because the price is right.
One of the major considerations is the cost of the land, and how much taxes they're going to be paying on that land.
And so you have this land that's non-productive, that's not doing anything, but hey, we're going to backfeed the grid. We're going to go and integrate the wastewater system. Hey, we're going to bring you network access. And it's not just that. I don't work for that hyperscaler, but I really wish I could grab their sales and marketing people to Ed's point, say, stop talking about the cloud and all the things you're giving to me on my phone. Like, that's all fantastic. And I wish I could name them by name, but it's like, hey, they're all about efficiency and waste. So it's like, you know what? If there's ever a security problem on site, we want to make sure that we have access to police, fire, ambulance, everything else. So guess what? In this small town like mine, the police department was old. You know what? We're equipping you with all new vehicles and new stations and the best communication systems. And we're going to make sure that the not just the rural connection, but also the mobile radios and stuff are going to work out there. They upgraded the fire department just in case there's a fire at the data center. But guess what? It's located in the town. They went so far as, they're about an hour outside of a small town, 20, 30,000 people. It's like, you know what? I'm really, like, these guys are generally concerned. I'm worried. What happens if somebody gets hurt on site? It's going to be an hour trip out and back for the ambulance. That won't do. We're going to install a helipad on the site. Oh, wait a minute. The local hospital doesn't have a helipad. That's okay. We will build them a helipad, and we will gift them a helicopter. They're trying to give back, but they're not telling the greatest story about it. And to your point, and I find it ironic, Ed, because you brought it up. It's like people will hear one bit of information, and then there's a bunch of bots that do it. So it's like bots are what? They're electronic devices, and we're re-amplifying the same voice through a data center to complain about data centers. And when I was at the Data Center World Conference in DC, it was funny. Somebody got a picture of the person, but I won't do that because I don't want to out them. But it was, hey, let's organize against data centers. All data centers are bad. Scan this QR code. And it's like, if you're against data centers, don't publish your phone number. Don't do a QR code. Don't print it out on your laser printer. Paint it on a wooden sign. And, use U.S. Post Office to organize. And I don't mean that to make fun of people, but it's just to highlight maybe they don't understand how ubiquitous. We're all old enough to hear that data is going to be the fourth utility. Well, I don't think data is the fourth utility. It's pretty close to the first utility now, as far as what we use every day. Like, we may not be in a place that's using water or heat or hydro. Like, when we're out exploring nature, we're exploring nature, but what have we got? We've got our phone taking pictures, taking videos, all trails to make sure that we don't get lost. Oh, I'm going to use the picture scanner to figure out what that plant, what that bird is, what that animal is. But we want to fight against data centers. It's data will not cause us to live or die, but it's the first utility because it's the one we use the most.
It's funny you use the bird example because my wife has the bird app on her phone. And when we go camping and stuff, she'll like, shh, I'm trying to capture the bird's voice. Yeah. It's funny that you use that.
I want to jump in here real quick. You asked if there's legitimate concerns. And I want to be fair to people because any new construction has legitimate concerns. So let's start with, like, when we're talking about power, who's going to pay for that power upgrade, right? That's a legitimate concern. And we answered that. Usually the data center builder will pay for those power upgrades. Who's going to rectify the situation with emergency services? Now we talked about that just a moment ago, but whenever you're building a data center, sometimes they are treated as a high responsive location, sometimes higher than a hospital, depending on, because that's where communication is for 911, things of that nature. Cooling, is it going to be closed loop? Is it going to be pure air? Is it going to be, is there going to be lots of water waste, right? Are you going to do physical construction to the ground? Now, there is a legitimate concern out there because there was a data center that was built, and in order to build that data center, I forgot the location where it was, but the only way to get through the ground to set up the foundation is you have to dynamite it, right? You got places in Colorado and rocky places like that where you have no choice but to dynamite the structure. But when you did that, you introduced a lot of rock waste into the water, and now people perceive that as data center sewerage, and they misunderstand that because it was never explained right, that any construction that happens there, unfortunately this was a larger construction of a building, is going to cause that. So that not communicating that right causes legitimate concerns of when you build these places, you're going to cause issues. How often are you going to run that generator? I'm going to hear it if I live near you. Are you going to run it every day, every week, right? How many real jobs, permanent jobs are we going to create with this data center? You talk about creating jobs with data centers. How many are you going to do? And the tax incentives. My tax dollars are going to this data center. And how am I going to benefit, right? These are questions that the public should ask. Those are legitimate questions, not questions like, is radiation going to kill me because a data center is right by there? No. These are legitimate questions, and I promise you that data centers field these questions in a large questionnaire before they ever file anything with the local government. They field a lot of these questions. Look, as you mentioned, if we're going to impact emergency services, we'll build you a helipad. We'll get you more fire trucks. We will pay for more people because we get that we are going to be treated as a high-level emergency location. So I would say that those are legitimate questions from my perspective.
It's funny. It's like you read my mind, Ed, because that was my question for you. My next question for you. So, Henry, you said you were going to say something?
Well, yeah, and they are legitimate questions. Noise, pollution, cost, everything else. And we're not saying everybody out there, because AI is much like the gold rush, or and data centers and data is like the gold rush, like the Industrial Revolution, and a lot of good came out of it, and there are some bad actors in there too. So we're not saying approve every data center.
But one of the things that makes a difference, though, Henry, one of the things that makes the difference when you compare today's modern data centers to the industrial boom of yesteryear, today we have standards and best practices. Back then, they just do whatever they wanted to, and you're highly involved in those level of discussions and creating those standards and best practices. Do they have anything currently in them, or are they going to be some point putting stuff in them that talks about the impact on the surrounding communities?
So everybody is different, and I'll say there's a difference between your enterprise data center, because there's data center as a vertical. The Magnificent Seven, the AI providers, the cloud providers, the social media companies, the e-commerce people. That's data centers are vertical. So data is their primary function. The media companies, I will argue, are data centers are vertical. Then there's data centers as a function, and there's not a business that I'm aware of that doesn't need a data center. So we got to get around that first. But where I was going with this is the people that grab attention on the news are the people on the leading edge and the bleeding edge. They're literally going to the moon. Like, one rack is 5 billion times more powerful than what we were using 40 years ago. And in a data center, there's 10,000 of those things. I don't even know what 10,000 times 5 billion is, but it's a really big freaking number. So standards are there to make the rest of us that live in, roughly the same environment. All three of us live in different towns, but they're roughly the same. We have different experiences, but are roughly the same. But some of the big ones that are grabbing all the attention they so transcend standards, they actually lead standards. So the work I'm doing with some of these people at hyperscale, they are so hyper focused on their mission. So there's ones that deal with things like AGVs and self-driving cars. There's ones that do e-commerce. There's ones that do internet access. There's ones that do social media. And just giving you those 4 examples, they have 4 vastly different missions. And it is truly mission critical. So all 4 of them build their data centers slightly different ways. And they are in an internal arms race. Develop as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and as cleanly as possible, because as Ed said, it's less waste. So I don't see standards, because they tend to be reactive. For FinComs, for our banks, for our governments, for our hospitals, for our industrial plants. Those tend to be reactive. I really see what's going on in the higher echelon of data centers as driving that. So now what I see is these big buckets feeding back in and influencing on what we're doing, how to become more efficient in design. As Ed said, it's all about eliminating waste. And not that they're saying, hey, standards are bad, but it's like generic standards that are for multiple different missions inherently have waste. So I'm going to design agile networks to give me exactly what I need, when I need it, how I need it, with zero waste. And that's what it's all about. So it's actually really refreshing to work on one of those mega projects, because all of us have been involved in construction sites, right? And you have concrete fighting against steel, fighting against site works. You have electricians versus plumbers versus, the ugly tech guys like us on site, and they're all fighting.
Speak for yourself.
I couldn't believe it. It was like a hippie commune at one of these construction meetings, where it's like the number one thing is getting it done on time and getting it done right. And that is the most important thing. And you either all get along or you don't. And if you don't, then you're off the site. So it's all collaborative, and we're all trying to make each other better and more efficient. So I'm answering your question in a reverse way. I see what they're doing, and by exploring the possibilities, they're improving what we're doing for everything else. So some of the learnings I have from some of these mega projects that are in the gigawatts, I'm applying those learnings into what we're doing for the bank data center, or the hospital data center, or the hotel.
Right.
And it's actually working in reverse. And this is the most exciting time of my career. And I'm just sorry that it's when I have gray hair, right?
Yes.
As opposed to when I had all my hair.
I say that all the time, Henry. There's so much new stuff coming down the pike that it saddens me that I'm at the end of my career. But I think what I've gotten out of our conversation so far is it's not really a data center problem. It's a communication problem, because I think people are tired of, or maybe not in reality, but maybe feeling like there's decisions being made behind the closed doors. And I think they're also, they're kind of anxious because they're waiting to see if, all these promises of new jobs are actually going to be delivered. I think that's kind of what's driving a lot of the mistrust. So let's kind of shift our conversation into moving forward, because we know they're not going to stop building data centers. They're not. They're going to keep going. They'll find a way. In fact, Henry probably knows this. I think Ed knows if he listens to the show. There is a data center on the moon. Okay, we've put a data center on the moon, and I think it was Elon that talked about putting data centers in satellites in space or something like that. So they're not going to go away, right?
Yes, he did. But I always say, if you got a data center in space, you still want deep edge caching. So that data's got to land somewhere, and there's still going to be data centers here on Earth. You need them. Even if they're all, if 50% of them go into space, you can't put them all in space.
Right. And then Henry also said this is the gold rush of the low voltage industry, the limited energy industry. Honestly, I disagree with you there, Henry. I think it's the second gold rush of our industry. The first one was in the mid '80s when they shifted over from having one cable for computers and a different cable for phones, and they kind of converged. That was the first gold rush. Now this is even a better gold rush. So Henry, this question's for you, because again, we're talking about the future. We know the data centers aren't going to go away, right? What advice would you give a field tech who's thinking about going to work in a data center?
Oh, wow. Gosh, have a good time. It's going to be excellent. Go ahead and get yourself educated. It really depends. When you're talking about a tech going in there, it depends what level of technician. Are we talking about a network engineer? Are we talking about a cabling
I'm talking
engineer?
A cable guy. A knuckle dragging wire monkey.
Listen, the best thing you could do, and I have been there from the bottom up, installing some of the first servers with an N on there, and I had no clue what they were. That ended up being Netflix. I've been there at the start of many companies, just installing servers, routers, equipment, network engines, having no clue what I was installing, just running lots of meters of fiber. And all of a sudden, I hear that it was this company or that company. Come prepared to work hard, put your head down, and carry the right tools. You got to have snips. You got to have Velcro, and you got to have your testers. Make sure you got your power tester, you got your power meter, so you can send light. But it's kind of a hard question, because you're really going to do what you've been trained to do at a data center. Don't get in discussions or arguments with the plumbers. Don't get in arguments and discussions with the electricians. Electricians like to pick on low voltage guys all the time for some reason. They like to butt heads. Don't get in deep discussions with them, because you know what? It's just not worth it. Shake their hand. Have a good attitude. You are in the middle of one of the fastest growing businesses that we have seen in a long time here. And data centers and that low voltage work is not going to go anywhere. The infrastructure has to be there for AI to continue to grow. So I'm hoping I'm answering your question. It's just that
No,
is,
you did.
if
You
you're
did.
going in there new, go in there with a smile and be happy to get working.
Let me ask you this, Henry. As a young technician who wants to move into the data center, what should they learn first? Fiber, pathways, testing, bonding and grounding. What skills should they learn first?
All of the above. Whatever you're passionate about. And I would say become a pirate. Become a pirate. Be opportunistic. So if somebody wants to teach you everything about grounding and bonding, suck it all in. And then you want to learn about fiber, because guess what? It's all going to change. Like we all have gray hair. Do the details of what we learned in the 80s matter today? Not one iota. Not one of the details. I don't, when was the last, like you and I did RS-232 and RS-45, and we used butterfly tools, and we used soldering irons, and we used laced, we used screw terminals, wire wrapping. None of those skills really do us any good at home, at work. Maybe if we're at home and fixing the toaster, that's about it. But it's the willingness to learn, and I think that's what I'll go with, Chuck, is, what made the difference for me is after I left university, I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I got into the low voltage cabling industry. It's like, you're going to do data wiring. Well, what the hell is data wiring? I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And every time somebody says, hey, do you want to try something new? It's like, just like Ed said, it's like, yeah, why not, man? Just keep saying yes. Find pathways to yes. And I say, hey, you want to teach me control systems? Yes. I'm old. I've got less hair. I've got gray hair. I'm learning all about redundant ring topologies in control networks. And, one of the things that's blowing my mind is, we've all heard about PON. We're probably all on variations of a PON network, except for poor Chuck that doesn't have any fiber in his neighborhood. And I was trying to figure out why PON would be in a data center. And we're looking at applications for PON in data centers. It's like, wait a minute. The detailed application I don't understand, but the concepts I know are helping me do things like out-of-band management, control systems. So be willing to learn, suck it all in, but go in there, and I think, Ed, you said it, or Chuck, also go in there with a critical eye. So if you've got an old guy like us, that's a curmudgeon that's, hey, back in my day, Sonny, we always did it that way. That's the guy that, thank you for your advice, and I'm going to go park it off of here. I'm not going to get rid of it, because there might be some good logic behind it. But
Right.
if odds are, if he's an old curmudgeon that isn't willing to change, the detail isn't important. Look for the underlying theme.
Let me ask you this as a follow-up question, Henry. What standards or credentials should somebody looking to do more work in data centers pay attention to?
I would go after every single one of the Big C ones. Any one of the credentials out there showing that you're willing to learn and try new things. Big C's got a wide gambit of certifications, and they have everything from design to management to field installation, outside plant, and go after all of them. Take learning. It doesn't mean you're ready to step into hyperscaler one and tell them how to redesign their network. You're not qualified, but what it shows is that you have the ability to learn, that you have ability to understand standards, even if they're not industry standards, even if they're just best practices. And it shows that you have process and structure, right? Because the days of the Wild West are gone. You need process, you need structure. To Ed's point, you can't have any waste.
Right.
I want to follow up on the question you asked me because you caught me off guard at first, and I've had a little time to process it. So the advice I would give a new technician coming in, it may follow Henry's thought process as well, but first of all, respect the facility. You have to respect the facility. Become intimate with all the stuff that's happening in that facility, but do not become intimidated by what's going on in the facility. Ask questions, as Henry mentioned, but one of the things that I want you to understand too is that you have to learn the site rules. You have to learn the methods, the procedures. Know that if labeling is important, you're doing the labeling. If they use Velcro instead of zip ties, that's what you're doing. But absolutely follow things like lockout, tagout. Don't skimp on that. Don't skimp on grounding. Don't skimp on that mush that they put so that they the fire stop. Follow the guidelines that are happening there, and you're going to have a better time. Don't guess. Continue improving your skills. That's not the time for you to say, I'm just learning. At that time, you've got a pretty decent job. You're getting paid high money. You better come prepared for what's happening.
I didn't even touch that subject. People working in data centers are making bank right now. Making bank. I got two final questions for each of you. Same question. Let me see. I think we'll do Ed first, since I think the last question I sent to Henry. Two questions, Mr. Ed. What is one myth about data centers that you just wish would die? And where does the industry need to get better over the next 5 years?
Myth is that all data centers are bad. All data centers are the same. All data centers are going to harm you in some way or another without understanding the nuances. One thing the industry could do better is be more transparent, be more upfront. We have a situation with a data center in a small town that when the people found out that a data center was going to be built, they found out when it had already been passed through the local government, that all the designs and everything had happened and nobody had been instructed. So what happened? The people got all together, riled up, had signs, said no data center, and that data center build got squashed. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. What the local government did badly there was bad communication. What the data center company did there, bad communication. What the industry continues to do is provide sales and marketing to regular people, and that doesn't work. They need to allow people to understand the benefits of what the data center can bring, and that goes to the other myth that data centers are all bad and that AI is all bad, when people forget that the same people protesting data centers are the same ones saying, I want to get electric cars because they're better for the environment, not knowing how much that electric car interfaces with data centers. You use for all of the anger and protesting and information that you put out there against data centers, you are, as Henry said, you're using data centers. So please understand the tie.
The platform that they're probably using to communicate the protest is going through a data center. What's it called? Signal or something like that?
I don't know.
I
don't know. I have no issue with people being frustrated about data centers as long as it is an educated, clear debate structured in science and the truth, not in imagination. There are legitimate concerns, as I mentioned before, but people forget that they go to myth and misunderstandings as you ask this question. That's what they focus on and use against data centers, and that doesn't work. You'll never win that argument. Base it on the truth and the facts.
Henry, same two questions to you. What's one myth about data centers you just wish would die, and where do you see the industry going, the data center industry going, over the next 5 years?
So it feeds into exactly what Ed was saying. They're not all the same. all your concerns are valid, but as much as you quest and want knowledge, and it's funny because people want information and then they go to the internet for the information about fighting against the internet. Okay, it's a little goofy. Don't trust anybody blindly. Don't trust me. Don't trust Ed. Don't trust you. Like if you know us, you'll see that we're altruistic. Trust but verify, and verify everything. So just like in the Wild West, or in any one of the boom times, there was snake oil salesmen, and so I like to always use the Goldilocks and the Three Bears principle. So if I'm going to ask you to do one thing, remember the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And, I'm prepping for a data center conference for the EU, and that's exactly the theme. And so I'm giving the audience here a spoiler. I've got 3 images. Tell me which one is most realistic. It's Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Is the bed too big, too small, just right? The porridge too hot, too cold, just right? But you'll see people with data centers giving a dystopian environment where the anti-data center market is saying, oh my God, the world will end, Terminator will win, dogs and cats will commingle, and fire will rain down from the skies if you allow more data centers. Then you have the marketing people from data centers saying the exact opposite. It's like, you are going to live in a Disneyfied utopia where data is going to solve all your problems. Everybody's going to be a good actor. You and your family is going to spend the whole time having a picnic on the grass while unicorns are brought back to life, and they're going to be frolicking across the grounds, and Skittles will be falling from the sky. And guess what? That's your Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And the reality is you're going to have good actors, you're going to have bad actors. And it's not necessarily bad from a nefarious standpoint. It's like they might not know what your concerns are. They might not know that we all love birds, and there might be a bird that is endangered. But for example, speaking of endangered birds, there's a data center that I know of that found out during construction there was an endangered bird. So guess what? They'd already started. They couldn't stop, but they did stop construction, and they built a whole new habitat and ecosystem for this strange bird, including research to do it. So don't believe the unicorns and Skittles falling from the sky. Don't believe the volcanoes will erupt and the Terminators will take over. The truth is somewhere in the middle, and engage with your government. Hold your government accountable. Hold the companies accountable, and engage. That's what I'd ask you to do.
Gentlemen, what a great conversation. I can see this conversation not done yet. We'll probably come on back around to this sometime in the future, because I have a feeling it's not going away anytime soon. I appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Love the opportunity.
Very nice
Chuck.
meeting you.
Yeah,
Very nice meeting you, Henry. Chuck, always a great pleasure. Thank you.
Yep.
Now you know the deal. Subscribe and share the show. Help us spread the real. Stay connected. Do it right. Let's talk cabling. Let's talk cabling.